how do we go about impressing those older than us, impressing the world as young people? Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Parker Eimerl, and this is the Conversation Station. That's a thought that has been on my mind for years at this point, because it's something that in many ways I've done naturally, but I've also been extremely intentional about it, especially as of late. And the fact is, a lot of the time, these things are far easier than they seem, right? So we live in a world where the teenage population, the young population, has about the lowest standards of any age group on the planet, right? As a teenager, it is accepted for you to live life aimlessly and to put off hard work for days, months, years, you know? Oh, I'm only 15. Oh, I'm only 14. I have years to figure this stuff out. But the fact is that if you don't figure stuff out now, you won't figure it out later. If you don't set a foundation now, you won't have that foundation to build on. If you don't set anything up, there will be nothing. If you don't sow any seeds, nothing is going to grow. And so the interesting thing is, in this world, if you are the type of person that's ready and will take action in their lives and will change these things and will step up, you have a huge advantage over everyone and everything else. And I think it's interesting because we do get lost in that. I've gotten lost in that. Oh, I'm only, for years it was, oh, I'm only 13. Oh, I'm only 14. Oh, I'm only 15. But even, and that happened despite the fact that I had already been in the Apogee program for years, right? I've had times where that was my mindset. And sometimes it takes a major wake-up call to wake us up from these times. And I want this episode to be the wake-up call to any and every young person listening. This is your wake-up call. The fact of the matter is that I think we all have a desire to be great. We all have this desire. But society has put this message out there that when you are of a certain age, you don't need to achieve great things. You don't need to push harder, right? And now we do have a culture where there is a lot of sports being played and people can be great in that. But that's really the only place where we are being pushed. And honestly, that's great because it creates a good physical foundation. But we need to push in these ideas of leadership, right? That's where we need to step up our game. That is where we need to become better. That is where we need to strive to learn as much as possible and work out as much as possible. We need to work out our leadership skills, right? And so when we need to get on that path now. You need to get on that path now. Because if you don't, it's going to become perpetually harder to do so. Because your actions now have an effect on your actions later in your life. Any action you take today changes who you will be tomorrow. But how do we make this shift, right? How do we choose to be better? That's exactly it. You choose to be better. Now, as young people, we do have this issue of the fact that we don't control our environment in many ways. When you are under the age of 18, you don't have the power. But what we need to do is we need to shift our mindset. If you are in a situation that isn't serving you, you can shift your mind so that you can work in order to get out of that situation. Put in the work now so that when you're 18, you have the skills and the mindset to get out of that situation, right? And the lessons that you learn now will put you so far ahead, right? And so what do we need to learn? And how do we do this? Well, we just need to do what other people aren't doing and do the opposite of what they are doing, right? People going out partying all night. Okay, I'm going to stay home and work. Right? And this is the group of peers that most people surround themselves with. I'm going to go surround myself with leaders. Right? Don't get caught up in the idea that your peers need to be the same age as you. Find the people the same age as you that share the same mindset and who want to put in the work, but don't get caught up in the notion that they have to be the same age. Never get caught up in that notion. Your peers should be on the same mental level than you. But more important than that, they should be on a similar path to you. Because you can have someone who's a few steps behind you on that path, but they are a peer because they are on the same path and you can help them. But you need to be the change that you want to see in your life. You need to be the change that you want to see in the culture. You can't expect a culture to change if you're not willing to take the steps to change it. We all need to take these steps because if we don't, we aren't going to be able to set ourselves up for success. You need to find the people who are there, but you have to understand what you need to and who you need to surround yourself with. And that's why mentors are important. You need to find someone who's walked the path. You need to find someone who's on that path so that they can show you how to get on the path, and they can turn you the right direction at all the wrong turns they took. Finding a mentor is by no means easy, though. It is very difficult. But there are many ways to do that. There are many places you can expose yourself to the right kind of people. And I think for me, my foundation was built from the Apogee Strong program. That's where my foundation was built. But I will tell you, the foundation is useless without the house built upon it. So I had that foundation when I wrapped up those 12 months in Apogee, but I was in one of the worst spots I've ever been mentally when I was done with that. The Apogee program is the most impactful thing I've ever done in my life. But I had other issues I had to figure out. There were things that the Apogee program couldn't solve for me. I was dealing with turmoil within my household. My parents got divorced. It was not good for my mental state to have such an unstable environment. I was by no means well mentally. I didn't feel excited about life. I was sleep deprived. I wasn't the leader I was supposed to be, and I wasn't the leader I was pretending to be. I wasn't who I should have been. And then what pulled me out of that was I got a girlfriend, right? And I think that that's one of those things where a lot of young men, that is what ends up pulling us out of these bad environments. It's what pulls us out of this hard place. But then we get blinded. And we think that that relationship is the only thing that pulled us out. It's the only thing there for us, and that's not true, right? And I was in that relationship for months, blinded. I didn't understand that she wasn't on the same life path as me, that she wasn't the person that was going to make me the best leader that I could be. And I wish I could say that I realized that and I'm the one that broke it off. But that would be a lie, right? At that time, she broke up with me. Right around the time where I was questioning breaking up with her She beat me to the punch. She did it in a horrible fashion. And it proved to me why. And it confirmed every doubt I had about her. But that was the greatest gift that I could have been given at that time, because goddamn, it shook me awake faster than you can imagine. That's when I started back up. I had just started up being more consistent with the podcast. And I was on like episode 5 when that happened. And over the 3 or 4 months that followed, I built up 26 episodes of the podcast. Right? But it shook me awake, and it showed me all the ways where I was lacking. It showed me all the ways that I was a hypocrite. And the interesting thing is, many of us, something that was supposed to be our wake-up call happens and we don't get woken up. We sit there and we blame external forces. We put it on other things. And we don't put it on ourselves. Right? I think the interesting thing is, with that breakup, I understood there were multiple factors outside of my control, but I also understood that during that period of time, those 6 months, I wasn't the best version of myself. I had made someone the center of my universe as opposed to making them part of it. That is something that at the beginning of that relationship, my best friend gave me a piece of advice. And he said exactly that. Don't make her the center of your universe. Make her a part of it. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't understand. But now I do, and he's 100% right. Because of that, I based all of my actions upon her in many ways. And those actions were many net negatives. But when she broke up with me, it was a huge wake-up call. And it took me about 2 weeks to recover from all of that. And then I just put my head down and I worked hard. I was already working hard. The day after she broke up with me, I had a podcast scheduled. And I believe it was an episode with Rodney Farrell, who is my biggest mentor. Him and Matt Boudreau tied for my 2 biggest mentors, but he's the reason I started the podcast. And I had that episode with him, and it wasn't fun. I didn't want to do it because I was hurting majorly. But I just built momentum, and I built on these things. But then this summer came, and so actually the real reason I stopped the podcast is I lost momentum because I lost an SD card, right? It's actually the SD card that is in my audio interface right now. I lost that SD card, and it contained the most recent recorded episode. That episode released 2 days ago because my mom found the SD card in her bag. But that is why I stopped the podcast, because I lost momentum. I lost momentum, and everything grinded to a halt. Yes, I was still doing some things. Yes, I was still in some ways leading, but I wasn't being the best leader I could be. And over the summer, I had a great summer. But in August, I realized it was time for me to get back to work. And in about mid-August, I decided that I was going to do 30 episodes in 30 days. And that's what I've been doing. And honestly, last week I lost momentum, but I kept the baseline, right? You fall to the level of your training. And what this 30 days is doing for me is it's raising the level of my training. And this is the most honest I've ever been in a podcast episode. But I'm only able to do this because I have momentum, and it's a very interesting thing, though. I started this 30 and 30 challenge, and I've kept working every single day, When I don't want to do a podcast, I do a podcast. When I want to do a podcast, I do a podcast. And more so than anything, it's not the podcast itself that's the best part of this 30 days. It's the fact that I've been doing something every single day. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That now, as I spread my horizons and as I reevaluate next month the frequency of this podcast, the momentum I've created and the ways I've up-leveled in this month and the ways I've up-leveled in the last 8 months since that breakup, that's the value. The value is the wake-up calls. So wake up, evaluate your life. Look at the things that aren't serving you. Look at yourself. Look at the ways you aren't serving those around you. Look at the ways that you have failed and are failing. And go. Go become better. Go put in the work that nobody else will. Go put in the work that even your family and your friends believe you can't. One of the biggest issues we face as young men and young people as a whole is that we get caught up in what everyone else's belief of us is, especially our parents. If our parents don't believe in us, we don't believe in ourselves. And it's something that we have to fight with. But we need to release that, and we need to find the people. We need to have mentors and people in our lives who believe in our ability to become better and who push us to become better so that we can. So if you're a young man listening, look up apogeestrong.com and get in the program. And if you're a young woman, that's a whole different game that I am not equipped to coach you on. But to every young man and young person listening, go lead. Stop lazing around. Don't waste these years that are your biggest chance to get ahead of every other person in the world. This is your chance to become better than everyone else and to have such a major advantage. Because right now is the time when you have the least amount of responsibilities that you can't control. And the issue is we have this small amount of responsibility at this time in our lives, but we don't add anything. And if you can add responsibility, it means that you will be better equipped to handle the responsibilities that come your way. When you are living out on your own, if we put in the work right now and we don't have to be on our own, that means that we will have the capital and the funds and the connections to be so ultra successful when we do need to have our own capital. This has been quite an interesting episode for me. Because this is the most open, most just everything I've been in an episode, and I didn't go into that episode thinking that I would tell my story. But if this doesn't show you that even with the best mentorship, even when you are in the best young men's program in the world, and you have incredible peers and incredible mentors and incredible people, incredible parents, I'm certainly privileged with the life I've had. I think privilege is an interesting term because it gets thrown around as a negative. Having a privilege is a positive. But I've had so many opportunities. But without the inept desire to take action and without believing you can be successful, you won't. It's worthless. And the biggest way that we hinder ourselves is by telling us we don't need to do it yet. Because when we tell ourselves that, we discount our ability to do anything. You can and you should go do it now, because future you will sure as hell be thankful. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm Parker Eimerl. I've been talking to you, and this has been The Conversation Station.